In 18th century France, a man named Jean-Baptiste Grenouille is dragged out of a prison cell and brought before an angry crowd that is yelling and cursing at him. The judgment has been passed. Jean is to be put to the cross and suffer a slow and agonizing death for his heinous crimes. The crowd cheers at this announcement while Jean is looking rather pale and disoriented. But a good story is told from the beginning. Jean-Baptiste Grenouille was born in Paris, July 17, 1738. At the time of his birth, Paris is the foulest-smelling place in all of Europe. His mother delivers him in the fish market where she works. Jean's cries alerts everyone to her criminal negligence, which promptly leads to her execution by hanging. Jean is taken to an orphanage. Nearly escaping an attempt on his life by other orphan children, Jean grows up with a remarkable gift. He can smell and sense anything with his nostrils up to a considerable distance. At some point, the orphanage owner sells Jean to a tanner, after which she is stabbed and killed. Jean begins working as a slave and soon realizes that there is much beyond the foul restrictions of the tannery. Surviving to adulthood, Jean is taken to Paris one day to deliver goods. Perceiving practically anything with his keenest sense of smell, Jean is entranced by a perfume shop. He stays there till nightfall until a new scent catches his attention. Jean smells a beautiful girl with red hair carrying yellow plums in a basket. He follows her and rudely sniffs at her skin. The girl is scared and walks away. Jean tracks her down, however, and smells at her again. She screams, but Jean holds her mouth and accidentally smothers her. He doesn't worry much though, and he undresses her, smelling, sucking every odor, and taking in all of the dead girl's scent. From that moment on, Jean's life gains a new meaning: to preserve the precious scents and keep the beauty of them forever. Giuseppe Baldini, a great performer once, but out of fashion lately, seeks inspiration to create a new perfume that will get him back in the game. He tries to find the contents of a great perfume, but his nose isn't that great. That night, Jean brings him a delivery from the tannery and impresses him with naming every ingredient in one of the best-seller perfumes. Jean impresses Baldini further by creating this perfume from scratch. Jean says that he can make it better and helps himself with a few other ingredients from Baldini's laboratory. Baldini sends the boy away and smells the perfume alone. He is mesmerized by Jean's creation and goes to purchase him from the tanner, after which the tanner gets drowned in the Seine River. With Jean's abilities, Baldini returns to the top of famous perfumers. He teaches Jean the basics of a great perfume comprising of 3 parts: the head, the heart, and the base. Jean is obsessed with capturing the smell of everything and promises to make Baldini the greatest perfumer in the world if he teaches him how to preserve scent. Baldini shows Jean a pump engine with which he distills roses. Jean tries it to capture the scent of ordinary things such as glass and copper, but he is disappointed when Baldini tells him that he can't distill the smell of anything he has in mind, especially living things. Hearing this, Jean collapses and finds himself dying from sudden depression. To save him, Baldini mentions another method of preserving scents, but to learn it, one must go to the Holy Land of perfumers, the City of Grass. Jean gets better and leaves Baldini, who dies suddenly when his house crumbles down. It is obvious that a curse is following that young man. Jean chooses the furthest between 2 roads to Grasse and finds a cave where there is absolutely not a scent except for the smell of dead stone. He stays in that cave, forgetting about his journey to Grasse, until one day he wakes up and realizes that he has no scent of him at all. Feeling desperate, Jean resumes the travel to Grasse. On his way there, a horse-drawn carriage with a beautiful red-headed woman inside passes by. Jean catches her scent and follows her to her mansion. Stalking her in the garden, Jean learns her name is Laura. Her scent is divine to Jean's nostrils. Soon, Jean starts working as a flower processor in Grasse. One evening, he abducts a young woman and kills her, putting the dead body in a tank following the enfleurage method in order to preserve her scent. The experiment, however, is a failure, and Jean decides to follow a different method this time. He pays a prostitute and puts animal fat on her arm. The woman gets scared, though, when she sees a sharp instrument and asks Jean to leave. Jean kills her and prepares her body with the process of cold enfleurage, finally creating her scent as a perfume, which even succeeds to fool her own dog. The other night, Jean watches as Laura and her father, Antoine, attend a feast at the mansion. Laura and her friends play hide-and-seek in a hedge maze. Jean stalks Laura and succeeds to take her two twin friends, Albine and Francois, to create their scent perfumes. Over the next days, following the same procedure, embalming the bodies and cutting the hair, Jean makes more and more perfumes by killing innocent women. All the while, the authorities are hesitant and only Antoine asks for a curfew to stop the murderer. After so many deaths, the curfew is ultimately enacted. Antoine tries to get inside the mind of the murderer, saying that he is creating some sort of collection based on the victim's good looks. The city of Grasse is now under a thick veil of fear, as no one can stop Jean from his evil work. Everyone is alarmed, armed and ready, but they cannot stop the murderous spree. Jean now needs only one more scent to complete his collection. A man under torture by the authorities in Grenoble confesses the killing of the women, and the citizens of Grasse rejoice. But Antoine still thinks that the real murderer is still out there. Soon, a feast is held to celebrate the capture of the killer, but Antoine worries about the safety of Laura. He argues with his daughter, who runs away and ends up in a dark alley with Jean lurking behind a wall, ready to kill her. Luckily for her, Antoine comes and Laura runs to her father. Back at the mansion, Antoine puts his daughter in bed and walks away. Jean crawls out of the shadows, but Antoine wakes up and rushes back to Laura's room. He sees that the window is open even though he closed it before leaving her room. In the morning, Antoine takes Laura and tries to fool the murderer. Jean smells Laura leaving and manages to track her down following her scent despite the great distance between them. Meanwhile, the prostitute's little dog digs up pieces of her clothes and her hair is found in Dominique's backyard. Soon, the clothes of all Jean's victims come to light and no one now can doubt about the killer's true identity. Antoine and Laura retreat to a secluded house to spend the night. Antoine double-checks everything and tells Laura that the murderer is after her to complete his collection. He also tells her that she is to marry a marquis, at which Laura gets upset and goes to her room. Jean comes to the house and goes after Laura. He takes the key to her room and enters without anyone noticing a thing. He hesitates for a moment when Laura wakes up and looks at him. In the morning, Antoine unlocks Laura's room and is shocked to find out that his daughter is dead. Jean has completed now his collection by making the last scent perfume, which, combined with all the previous ones, makes the ultimate perfume, but before he can smell it, he is apprehended. Antoine tortures Jean and asks him why he killed his daughter. Jean simply replies he needed her. Antoine then promises Jean that his death is going to be a long and cruel one. As everyone gathers to witness the murderer's rightful punishment, Jean opens up a vial of perfume that makes the guards stand in awe. Jean wears the final perfume he has made and arrives at the square inside a carriage. He comes out and two of the guards kneel before him. The crowd stares at him as though hypnotized. The executioner kneels and proclaims that Jean is innocent. Antoine can't believe his eyes and ears. Jean walks to the edge of the platform and puts a few drops of his ultimate perfume on a handkerchief, which he waves to the people around him as a formal salute. The crowd immediately falls deeply under the spell of the perfume. The bishop exclaims in wonder that Jean is an angel. All cheer for him. Jean lets go of the handkerchief and people begin making love to one another. Jean doesn't seem satisfied though. He eyes a basket of yellow plums and his mind rushes back to the day of his first murder. He sees himself making love to the red-headed woman and tears fall down his cheeks. Antoine calls out Jean's name with anger, but as he approaches, he falls under the spell as well and asks Jean to forgive him. The next day, the people of Grasse wake up naked and ashamed for what has happened. The authorities discuss about the recent events and decide to put the blame on Dominique for the murders, as it was in his backyard where the incriminating evidence was found. Dominique is arrested and hanged, and the case is considered closed. Jean returns to Paris, holding inside his pocket a weapon so powerful that he can enslave the entire world if he wishes to, a vial of the ultimate perfume. Jean returns to the place where he was born. He empties the vial of the ultimate perfume on his head and starts glowing like an angel. The people in the fish market are immediately entranced by him. They all pounce on him, kissing him, biting him, eating him. By the time they finish, Jean-Baptiste Grenouille is no more. His presence has been utterly consumed by love. The last scene shows an empty vial with a single drop of perfume falling to the ground. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. I'll be back with another interesting movie recap. Until then, take care.